against human actions on the land are increasing global carbon dioxide levels.
The right approach can still make a big difference.
Hill hopes more farmers join this movement to fight climate change from the ground up.
If we keep this in corn and soybeans for the next 20 years, just like it is right now, we're essentially saying we're accepting the tipping point.
Global temperatures are on the rise, and so are human populations. These trying times have raised questions about how we use our limited resources and what we can do to protect the planet for future generations. So I sat down with 3 experts to learn more about our current food production system and the future of the agriculture industry.
Western agriculture with its industrialized process is largely predicated on monocultures.
Let's imagine that you have a typical cornfield or a bean field. It's considered a monocrop because the only thing you're trying to farm is that one particular crop. And the entire aim of farming that one crop is efficiency. You want to get as many beans as you can or as much corn as you can out of those acres.
So they become highly specialized in terms of their personal skills and abilities. So when we think about food production efficiency in kind of the Western or industrialized monoculture systems, it's really all about labor use efficiency. If you think about other efficiencies, however, these folks aren't nearly as efficient as I think we might think them to be.
So when we think about the so-called efficiency factor of a monocrop, we have to ask so many questions about, is this really efficient? Is it really working the way that we're claiming?
We have not approached this particular landscape with care. We have imposed our presence on the landscape in a very careless and damaging way.
If we think about the amount of nitrogen applied to a cornfield, and the corn will only ever capture 20 to 30, maybe up to 40%.
And in the meantime, the land is being degraded. It's eroding. The quality of the soil is going down tremendously.
There is a lot of soil lost every time they till the ground. If we think about it in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, every time they plow the field, a lot of CO2 leaves the field. If you want to think about it in terms of most any other kind of efficiency, Westernized agriculture is not that efficient.
So if our current systems are not sustainable, where do we go from here? As it turns out, eco-conscious farming methods are being developed and implemented worldwide as a part of the growing movement away from industrial agriculture. One such movement, known as permaculture, could help point us in the direction of a more efficient and environmentally friendly system.
What is permaculture? It comes as a word from 2 guys in Australia in the late 70s, and they were trying to think about how do we incorporate a forest ecology along with landscape design. And what they ended up doing was this integrated thing, which they called permaculture, which brought together permanent and agriculture. And you may still incorporate certain times where you're going to use certain machines and so on, but permaculture will try to get away from as much industrialization as possible. So in other words, your heavy energy and fossil fuel use is going to be in setting up the system. So you contrast that with what farms do today, and they need tremendous, barrels and barrels of diesel fuel to run these tractors back and forth and tremendously massive tractors and equipment that they haul back and forth. And all of the manures that they're using to fertilize have to come from some off-site location, which has to be again hauled there by a huge amount of fossil fuels.
Compost your waste instead of having it hauled away to a landfill. See it as a resource, and put it on a garden that you have in your yard, an organic garden that doesn't need the chemicals. And you see, we're starting to connect some dots here.
So with permaculture, you're trying to integrate all of that. Your cows, your goats, your chickens, whatever you're raising are going to be interspersed throughout your system in a controlled way, that they're managing your weeds and your grasses and so on, and also benefiting from those and also dropping manure at the same time. So in a lot of ways it's a very possible system, but it's a matter of culture, and it's a matter of how people are willing to think about how things should be done.
Contrary to intuition, which would suggest that the industrialized process is something that we need to feed a growing human population, it turns out monocultures produce fewer calories per unit of land area than polycultures do. So the evidence suggests that polycultures will out-yield monocultures by anywhere from 60 to even 2-fold higher production of calories per unit of land area.
So we know the damage we've done, and we know what we can do next. But thinking about our past and our future, I have to ask, where are we now?
In today's climate, there's more and more options almost weekly for consumers. So that gives hope that there is a possibility for change, and there is room in people's minds that maybe this isn't what we've been doing, maybe this isn't the greatest way, and maybe we should think about other systems.
That's one of the things about human beings is we tend to be quite conformists. You know, we like to think of ourselves as these individuals, but we're pretty hesitant to step out of the mold.
Consumers have a lot more power than what we sometimes give ourselves. So, Michael Pollan is famous for saying, vote with your fork.
To choose with their dollars economically to buy the sorts of foods that help us to live better lives. I think there's ethics involved here too.
But the bottom line is that when consumers start to go in a certain direction, people who are producing for them are going to go in that direction as well, as long as they want to keep making money.
I think it shows a proper posture. I think it shows a proper humility. It shows a desire to become reconciled for past wrongs. And it shows a proper affirming of the creation within which we reside and which supports us and gives us life. But it also indicates that, okay, we've learned from past harms and our mistakes, and we want to move forward with a new attitude and a new mindfulness of what we've done in the past, but also what we are capable of doing in the future.